When I tell you to break clean, watch yourself at all times. Shake hands now. May the best man win. Good luck to both of you. Round one, that was the bell.
Speed called by Betty Excellent, the uncrowned heavyweight champion.
Welcome into another episode of That's Boxing. I'm Dust.
I'm Coach.
Coach, I got a question for you. Is that like red paint on your hands there?
You wouldn't believe it. I'm walking out of the gym today, and this total stranger runs up to me with a bucket of red paint.
Oh, I don't think we're letting you off the hook that easy. I need to see your passport.
They got in the car and drove away.
I think it was you. I think you hit her with that paint can.
Well, dude, come on. I wouldn't use red.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, you got the blue hat.
I would use
here.
red, white, and blue.
Oh,
got her.
Oh, well, we did get her. Pretty crazy card. Ryan versus Mayer, interesting fight. She's leaving her hotel room and I guess making the line to the car, right in that little jaunt on the sidewalk. Someone drives by, runs by, throws a can of paint at her, hits her. Pictures of her standing out in all her gear, just covered in red paint. Right, and she looked rattled, man, before the fight.
Oh yeah, yeah, really interesting. You know, the buildup was already contentious, a lot of drama, a lot of shit talking, a lot of she's a bitch and that, and then that happened, and it's like, okay, now people are immediately going to suspect that Mayer had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But she said she had nothing to do with it, and she, you know, who knows what really happened. But at the gym today, talking to one of the boxers, Liz, she says something I hadn't thought about. Shout out Liz for this insight. She says it was either Mayer or her team without her knowledge, right?
Right.
That's why she can honestly say, I don't know.
I didn't know, and they just
exactly. Or here's one thing she brought up. What if it was Sandy Ryan's own team?
Like doing it to try to like make the other girl look bad?
Maybe because then her own coach was the one that was adamant that they pull out.
Right. He was.
Yeah.
But what would be the reason for that?
Foil hat. Why
like,
put the hat? Why?
Yeah.
Because now he's like, he really actually this whole time wasn't going to be like, you know, a good coach for her. And he was like, well, I'm on Team Mayer after all. Here's some paint.
I mean, there's also that's actually really funny with the coach angle because he was blowing up in the locker room, like backstage, like we got to pull out. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a narrative here about can foreign fighters get a fair shake, right, with the judges, and you know, you got Bob Arum and Catterall Catterall Taylor blowing up in the ring. I'll never bring an American fighter over here because it's just not fair. Now, we thought that wasn't, you know, highway robbery. It was probably the right call even potentially, but it was a close fight nonetheless. And sometimes the scorecards can get a little funky. And maybe it was about that. It was about saying, well, maybe they were worried, didn't want to go through with the fight because they realized something like that, saw a judge, I don't know. Or maybe helping to paint that narrative of it's not fair over here. Because it was very like, surprising to me, thinking like, okay, so some random New Yorker was like USA and like threw it on a British boxer.
The fact that it was clearly targeted. They waited for her to come out. They hit her with the paint, jumped in the car, and drove away. They weren't waiting for a random person. They were waiting for her.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess the other option could be like a Michaela Mayer super fan who's like, I'm gonna take care of this for you, girl. She called you names or something.
Just
and
seems
it's just
weird.
Like, what?
I don't know. Maybe I underestimate like how high profile this fight was. Right, but if it's like, okay, it was whatever, Tyson Holyfield in the prime or something like that, it doesn't fit the bill to me for someone to be. But I guess they did. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, it ended up being a pretty close fight, and you know, I had predicted a split decision or a draw, some leaning for Sandy Ryan, and she almost pulled it off. You know, she just started a little slow. Maybe the emotions got to her. She was going face first into a lot of punches from Mayer. I mean, she was running face first through that traffic. Try to get her own shots off, and it was rough going there for a while. And she definitely won the back half of the fight. And the broadcast team agreed with that take as well. I think, you know, in these close 2-minute round fights that go so fast, there's no real way to separate yourself and tell who's the better boxer. So, you know, it could have been a draw, could have won either way, but it was, you know, it was pretty competitive and a pretty entertaining fight.
Yeah, I saw it that way as well. I thought you called it perfectly. I actually faded a little like $5 funny bet on the draw, which I have never done before. But when they were fighting this fight, I thought, okay, that's a split decision victory for Ryan. I thought she landed the much more impactful shots. And unfortunately, yeah, she got hit with some really clean, fast jabs that kind of snapped her head back that, you know, they didn't seem like they were deterring her. And I felt like for each, you know, 2 of those, she landed a really serious, you know, body shot or, you know, really cracking head shot that kind of edged most of those rounds for me towards her. But I think the judges were impressed with how busy Michaela was and how fast she was working, and ultimately that gave her the fight. But
Yep.
one judge saw it a draw.
Yeah, well, after all that drama, she had Al Mitchell back in the corner again. You know, Al was, I brought him up last week, and he was the 1996 Olympic amateur team head coach, and that was one of the best teams we had, you know, and super cool dude, great instruction. And she won off the back foot. I mean, she moved backwards the entire fight and managed to pull off the win. That's, you know, good tactic, especially in the face of somebody who wants to stand and just knock your head off.
Yeah.
So she used the ring wisely, and it was effective with her evasion. And you can say that Sandy Ryan was ineffective with her aggression. you
Yeah.
know?
Do you feel like if she could have just been a bit more evasive, cutting the ring off? I mean, for the first like 4 rounds, I think Michaela just moved to her left, and that was it. Like she
Circle,
couldn't
circle,
figure it
circle.
out.
Yeah, no, that was boxing basics, you know,
Yeah.
just turning. And yeah, she didn't really, I don't know. I think maybe the emotions got to her a little bit. You know, this fight might have a little asterisk next to it forever. The red
Because
paint,
of the paint?
the red paint show.
If you were picture yourself on fight day like that, you get hit with the paint. Obviously, unnerving, very surprising, comes out of nowhere type of thing. But do you think you would remain rattled like that? Felt a little, I don't know, intense. How like we were gonna pull out of the fight and all this stuff. I'm like, okay. I mean, maybe you get hit with the can. It's like heavy. It's like a gallon of paint. Like that would hurt.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it seems like it would have worn off a little bit as you realize it's not actually a threat and it's just some kind of prank.
Right.
And, obviously it's going to, if you have the right mentality and the right team around you, you'll be able to center yourself and get back to work. I thought it would have been ridiculous if she would have pulled out of the fight. That certainly wasn't pull out of the fight worthy.
No.
So I'm glad they didn't do that because then she would have been clowned on forever. But
I couldn't read her backstage. They were kind of interviewing her and she was like dead quiet, had her hat super low. And I was like, she's either so focused she's just going to take this person's head off, or she's like deeply rattled. I didn't know which one.
Yeah, weird deal, man. I don't want to see anything like that happen ever. Leave these fighters alone. Let them do their business. Don't throw paint at people. Don't do whatever. No pranks.
Unless it's Devin Haney, then we'll get to him later.
Oh my goodness.
Earlier in the card, got this pick right. Xander Zayas, Damian Sosa. Complete domination, boxes to the decision. This dude is tough as nails, never been stopped, and I don't know. Didn't look to me like Zayas was really pressing the action full, looking for the knockout. It looks like he took what he gave him and did what he needed to do, but won damn near every round.
Yeah, great performance, really clean, a great development fight against a tough opponent, and it feels good to be right. We called that one right because the right guys showed up.
Yeah,
it's easier to pick these fights properly when the boxer that's supposed to be there is there, and not some other version of themselves, some diminished version, or maybe some version that's recovering from a roadside pain attack. It's like, okay, the guys that we expected to show up showed up, and the fight played out how it was supposed to play out. There was no unknown variables, and so that felt right to get that one right on the money there. And Sosa, is going to be a great working man. He's going to get another decent fight like that, and Zayas is going to continue his streak of going the distance.
What do you want to see next for him?
He's got some options out there at 154. I don't think he's. How many fights is he at now? Half a dozen, or rather, a dozen or so.
Yeah, he started so young. It's always
he's still young. He's like 21 or 22 or something.
Yeah, didn't he turned pro at like 17?
Yeah, top ranked signee at 17. Big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Big deal. But he should start working up to that.
So he's at 20 fights right now.
He asked for anybody in the top 5 at 154. So who's that? Virgil Ortiz.
So top 5
Terrence
ESPN
Crawford.
right now. Yeah, Terrence Crawford, Madrimov, Fundora, Virgil Ortiz, Tim Tszyu, Bohocek.
See, those all sound like seasoned, like man boxers, and he's still kind of like a kid.
Yeah,
I don't want to see him in there with Madrimov. I don't think he's ready for that level.
Probably not.
So maybe top 10, 5 to 10 range.
Erickson Lubin
Yeah.
or Ramos Jr., something like that.
Yeah, Abel Ramos Jr. That would be a big fight for him. But I think that's what he needs to start looking at. He needs to start looking at some names.
Yeah,
But this is Top Rank, man. They might just keep slow
simmering
cooking
that pot forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Till they sell him upriver to the big puncher.
Top Rank Special was in full effect. Bruce Carrington gets the win over Sagawa. Little this was an interesting fight. It was a chess match. It was great to see two highly skilled boxers go at it. I think a lot of people were underestimating Sagawa. We weren't. We talked him up, especially, people gave him some shine after the Ruben Villa UD that he got last, and obviously he wasn't given, any chance to win that fight. So I thought he had skills, and I thought we put respect on his name in that regard, but I still thought that Carrington was going to get him out of there and stop him. And we were talking a little bit before this podcast that looking back over his record, he really only been stopped once by Jermaine Ortiz, who's quite a puncher. And I don't think we gave his boxing skills maybe enough credit because he really frustrated Carrington. And about, halfway, 2/3 through the fight, I thought he pulled ahead. And I personally had him up by a round, winning the fight.
Hard fight to score for sure. There was a good punch Sagawa landed early in the fight that clearly affected Carrington. And from that point out, it became a really technical showdown where they were just really trying to be perfect and not really willing to make big moves. And then Sagawa made an adjustment to fight off the back foot, and every time Carrington tried to sneak in, he would just slide out. And that's what kind of got to that point where that little viral meme came from, where Carrington stuck his tongue out and waggled at him because
Right.
the dude just backed up for like 20 straight seconds. Every time Carrington tried to step in, he'd back up. And the southpaw orthodox, tricky tactical battle slowed things down, made it really sharp. And it was definitely the greatest challenge we've seen Carrington deal with yet. And one thing I thought about was how the kid's had about a dozen fights, right? Is he 12 or 13 now?
Yes, Carrington, 13 fights.
Yeah. So I think a lot of his success, has been a product of his opponent's mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this guy, Sagawa, just didn't make a lot of mistakes, if any.
Yeah.
So, and you got to remember, at the 122-pound weight class, knockouts are pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
That's why guys like him and guys like Inoue are so beloved and they're so viral on the internet and they become household names in the boxing community because they drop dudes. But you think, man, that's a tiny dude. It's a 122-pounder. And it's, the top 50 guys in that division, you're going to go look at their KO percentages are going to be extremely low. It's just not common to have big punching power. But
Right.
once you see it, you kind of fall in love with it and you expect it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what happened to us. We kind of fell in love with it and we wanted to see it again. And we thought the dude could do what he did, and he didn't. Credit goes to Sagawa for that because a young fighter's supposed to have opponents that they're overmatched from and they're better than. And those lesser skilled opponents make big mistakes. And making a big mistake against a guy with a punch like Carrington is a guaranteed knockout.
Right.
But now you got a guy in there with some skills, not making mistakes. He's keeping it clean. There was some dirty boxing in there, but keeping his defense, sharp, and not taking any unnecessary damage. He was able to get all the way through. Now, did I see him winning it? I don't know. There were some moments there where I couldn't even kind of keep score because things got so, slowly slowed down and feinting and jockeying for position. I have to go back and rewatch it and look at actually landed the cleaner punches. But Sagawa got his work in for sure.
Yeah, it was close. It was, Carrington only won by stoppage or unanimous decision, so his first majority decision. So definitely his closest fight. And, I think if he's honest with himself, he was having a bit of a panic attack right before they raised his hand. So something to think about for him to maybe work on. I don't know, maybe good to just know not every fight's going to be something to walk through.
Yeah. It's a good development fight in that sense because now he'll know, okay, I've been the distance in a 10-round fight. I know what it takes to go there, and I've dealt with the southpaw that wouldn't get knocked out and had a close fight. So next time I'm in a race like that, I'm going to separate myself a little bit more with some more punch output, with a little bit more aggression, whatever it's going to take to separate himself.
Yeah, and maybe it is watching getting clipped early because I agree with you. That was maybe the first or second round, and I thought, oh, this fight's going to change complexion really fast. And he regained composure and got back in it, but you could tell that kind of knocked him off axis and kind of turned the fight into a different type of fight that was going to be a defensive battle. But, I enjoy those. I'm in the lone party.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good tactical match. Did get a little to the point where, the guys kind of have similar build, similar range and reach. And I was watching on my phone, and if I moved too far away, I'd be like, "Wait, who's who?"
Yeah, who's who? Which
Who's
one?
who? Who's winning? Oh shit! So I didn't do the most an analytical breakdown of it, but I saw enough of it to see what I needed to see. And Carrington certainly, he's going to keep on climbing. It's not going to ruin his stock at all. and we'll see what Bob puts him in there with next. But never bet against Bob, man. Damn.
Top rank special.
The Bob father strikes again.
Once they're cooking, they're cooking. I mean, what's next for Carrington? Let's see what's a step up for him. Is he a junior light? No, he's at featherweight, right?
Yeah.
120. So you got Lee Wood, Nick Ball, who we're going to talk about in a minute, Rafael Espinoza, Angelo Leo. That would be an interesting fight. Ray Vargas. I think Ray Ford moved up. I don't know. They still have him listed here, though.
Yeah, he's supposed to move up.
I'd like to see him against Fulton, maybe.
Hold on. Are you looking at the right weight class?
That's featherweight.
Yeah, it's featherweight, isn't it?
Is that what he's at? 126.
I thought. Okay. Then Sagawa weighed in at. Let me see. I thought Sagawa weighed in. Yeah. Okay. Sagawa weighed in at 123. Okay, so I saw that on watching the fight, and I thought, oh, he came in overweight for a 122. But
right.
Nope, he came in underweight for 126. Carrington was just under at 125 and 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, he's got skills. I think seeing him in there with a tactician kind of like Fulton would be really interesting. But I could see him starting to get ready here in the next, 3 fights to kind of crack into that top 10. And I don't know, you got to build him towards something.
Yeah,
right?
They got to move these guys along. Zayas, him, all these top-ranked guys, Kiki Torres, they all need to start moving up because, there's a whole other batch of guys that are coming to kick the door down behind them. They work in these undercards, work in these untelevised portions of these fights that are, just chomping at the bit to make a statement and get a big highlight knockout and get that boost up to the main stage.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, we'll keep looking for these fighters, and they seem to have paired those two together, Zayas and Carrington.
Yeah,
so,
they're New York guys.
Yeah.
So they're fighting in Madison Square Garden, and the hometown kids, tickets are going to sell.
Yeah, well, look to keep stepping them up, and maybe we'll be ringside for that one. Across the pond, next morning, we got back on track. Terry Harper gets the unanimous decision win against Rhiannon Dixon. Can't believe she was the underdog in this fight. Didn't see another outcome possible. And when I saw that, or, at best, maybe a 50-50 fight, but with all her experience and, this is where quality of opposition comes into play. You look at someone with, 2 losses, 2 stoppages versus someone undefeated, but okay, who stopped them and who were their victories over? She just has a way better resume. Mm-hmm. And you could see she drew on that experience and just absolutely, pieced her up, I thought. Great fight.
Nice work. Yeah. A lot of ladies boxing. Did you hear about Baumgartner's no contest?
Yeah, a clash of heads.
Yeah, head clash, big cut, and then that's it,
That's it.
That's too bad. I don't know if they'll rematch or just move along. What's interesting is, Baumgartner fought on the same night as Mayer. They were, previously fought each other, and Alicia came out on top in that one. But now, when you're looking at Mayer at 147, she looks like the bigger fighter in there. So how did she ever make 130?
Yeah. It's interesting. She did look like the bigger fighter, but maybe not as strong. She didn't look as strong to me, and so I don't know. Maybe it's tall or how she carries the weight or something. It's not quite the same. It doesn't look as effective, and I felt like part of her being smaller and lighter and more nimble was part of how she was so much faster. I mean, she clearly had speed on display.
Yeah, Well, she was putting the punches together a lot better. Combination punching.
Yeah,
which is what was able to catch Ryan coming in so much.
But a great night of women's boxing.
Yeah, good weekend in general. A lot of cool stuff going on, and it's like I don't know what's going to be next. I guess the Serrano Taylor rematch.
Yep,
is going to be like the crowning achievement for women's boxing this year. But it's definitely it's on the rise. They're making some good moves. They just got to give them 3-minute rounds. I think they should make that a thing, and it would make things better for everybody.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's just the pace of the fight. I mean, it goes by so fast, and it's just almost a different animal of a sport. I mean, they press the action so much, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't really buy. I haven't done what research the WBC or whoever, Mario Suleiman thinks they've put out there, but it doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I don't know what the justification is. I think right now, it's just like anything, when you have a system in place, just the concept, the thought of changing the entire system is daunting, so people don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. But all it would take about a year, and then all the active women boxers and all the young amateur boxers coming up in the female division would know that I have to start training for 3-minute rounds as a professional, just like the men do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm used to be. In the amateurs, they fight 3-minute rounds in the elite division,
so they go backwards into the pros.
Going back.
That's so weird. Yeah, flip it to 3 minutes. That's
Yeah.
my vote for sure.
Absolutely.
We've got a couple of boxing news. Interesting. Daniel Dubois, talking about him last week. Stock absolutely on the rise. Just jumps up in everybody's rankings to number 3, right behind Tyson Fury. So you got Usyk, Fury, and then Dubois.
Wow.
I don't hate it. Looking at the top 10, it's not like, oh, get him out of there. That's crazy. But it just goes to what we were talking about last week with the recency bias. Like, oh, you got a big win, and I mean, he looked very dominant, right? But okay, sure. I mean, now he's number 3. He went from not being in the top 10 to being number 3.
Yeah, that's just interesting. Is there anybody on the heavyweight top 10 besides Alexander Usyk who's undefeated?
Ooh, that's a good
Because
question.
I think all these guys have all knocked each other out in some kind of way.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's a great point. So you got Usyk, Fury, Dubois.
I mean, Fury's lost to, he drew with Wilder, and
Drew with Wilder and lost to Usyk.
Yeah.
No stop. Never been
But
stopped,
never been
though.
knocked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's been knocked out, but he beat the count.
You got the long count.
Yeah. Daniel Dubois, 2 losses. I guess 2 stoppages, right? Yeah, Joyce and Usyk both stopped him. Parker, 3 losses. You got AJ, Zhili Zhang. Zhang has not been stopped.
I don't think he's stoppable.
No, yeah, I don't know if he's stoppable. Bacoli, Caballel, Miller, Ruiz. I just, personally, I'd like to see Dubois versus Zhang or Bacoli.
Wilder's not on there at all, is he?
Um,
Wilder, Ortiz, Luis Ortiz.
no, Luis.
Those guys, those guys are just gone from the division, huh?
I mean, the way Wilder lost his past 2 fights, just not even throwing punches, it's like, is he a boxer still?
No, he took that ayahuasca, bro.
Yeah,
he's out of there.
he's a slip bag now. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see, if I were doing the rankings personally, I'd have Dubois below Parker, probably below Zhang. I don't even know if I'd have Bacoli number 7. I mean, not that I don't see the path there, right? But you don't get rated based on what you could do or what we think you could do.
No, it should be down to how many rounds you've won, or some kind of actual analyzing, like some kind of numerical thing. You know, how many rounds have you fought? How many rounds have you won?
That's hard though, because
and then the guys you fought had the value of the rounds you won is dependent on the value of the opponents.
Interesting.
Also, but like, so where's the keystone? Where's the Rosetta Stone? The
that's actually a really good idea. What you're talking about
the
is
universal clock that says the perfect fighter.
Right. What you're kind of like going down the road of is like QBR, quarterback rating in football. It has like this insane algorithm of like completed passes over the expected completion passes times your yards per attempt divided by how many and it gets this crazy thing where like I think what is it, like 160 is like the best, and then it just makes no sense mathematically, but it's a way to normalize the distribution of valuing quarterback performance one over the other, right? And I think you could do the same thing here. What you'd have to do with what you just said is add in there a multiple for if you knock somebody out, because you don't want to punish somebody for not getting any rounds in, right? So if you get the stoppage early, you actually get like more points versus later,
depending on who it was you knocked out and their record as well. So
exactly.
The more valuable record, the more valuable the knockout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to do. I don't have the time or the know-how or the energy, but everybody out there listening got a little time with an Excel spreadsheet or something, you can come up with some crazy algorithms.
I could make this.
This might be how BoxRec does their thing. I'm not sure. Their shit is really confusing.
Do they have their own? Oh, how BoxRec? Yeah, I was thinking CompuBox. Dan Canobio, hit me up. Let's come up with let's hit the whiteboard, and we'll get a good formula going. This will be great. Statistically, the best way to rank fighters. What else in the news? Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach finally gets made and gets a date, December 17th, I believe.
That should be exciting.
Right?
The East Coast Showdown.
And Lamont Roach is coming up in weight, I believe, for this fight, right?
Yeah, they always...
Yeah, he's fought his last pretty much every fight in his career at 129, 130, right there. I mean, going back far, going back to 2015. So Tank just, I don't know, he can't seem to find anybody in his weight class. They either got to come up or they got to suck down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
he brings down big guys and picks on smaller guys. It's kind of, it's good fight for Roach. I mean, it's a great opportunity for him. obviously nobody's going to pick him to win. And, hey, that's all right.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like another Tank stoppage. And, I'd like to see Tank in more of a legacy building fight where, again, he's another one of those guys where he seems great, seems better than great, but you kind of got to test it in order to take that place. So he's ranked number 1. ESPN has him number 1, but I just really only want to see him against number 2, Lomachenko, number 3, Zepeda, 4, Stevenson, 5, Perenchek, 6, Keyshawn Davis. Just go down the list, man. Anybody here in the top 10, rather than pulling somebody, who's, I don't think, in the top 10 or who's barely in the top 10 of the division below you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's in a point in his career where he's accomplished a lot. He's not really looking for those unifications or anything. I don't think he's really interested in that. No. I think he just really likes putting on a show. Mm-hmm. He's a real performer.
Yep.
And he sure does perform, the backflip and everything. So I think it's going to be the same kind of deal. You know? And watching him box is very entertaining. Nobody's going to blink, and Roach might just be, sleeping. All right, hey, check it out. I found this. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the Box Rec ratings algorithm. All boxers have a rating at the time of all of their bouts. Boxers are rated by the result of bouts between 2 opponents, A and B. The results may be a win or a loss. The probability of a win of a boxer with a rating against A versus B with ratings is R times A divided by parentheses R times B plus R. Oh my God, it just keeps going and going and going. This is ridiculous. Okay, just keep scrolling for like a page. It's a whole on like a true algorithm. I can't read this stuff out loud.
But that's a win probability. That's what they're going for, right?
This is
they're going what was the first part of the sentence?
Because this is their whole history rating algorithm. So they're rating probabilities because they're saying who's greatest of all time against guys who could never have fought each other.
Right. Okay.
So they have they also have a generalized whole history. They have special editions. Man, there's a lot going on here. So, well, we'll work on our own professional rating system, and I think we'll be better than this.
No doubt. No question. That's boxing rating system will be mathematically brilliant.
That's probably what's going to be our big breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen Good Will Hunting? I mean, that's basically my life.
Yeah, that's you.
That's me. Other news, Ryan Garcia watch. He's getting sued. Love this, for unjust enrichment and battery. Didn't know you could sue somebody for battery in a boxing match.
Wow. I thought this was a joke when I first saw it.
It's true. It's true.
Well, we'll see if the case even makes it to trial. It seems like it'll probably get thrown out because it's just on what grounds? I don't know. It just seems embarrassing, like right away it should have just been rematch me and be clean next time.
Yeah.
And then go back in the gym, get better, come back stronger, take care of business,
He's definitely not going to get any fans or any cred from this move. I mean, on one hand, I get it. Like, fans always, like, we don't want people to be dirty in the sport. And maybe this is part of the process. It's not just criminal penalties or penalties within the organization. It's actual civil penalties. Like, you hurt this person and you're going to get sued, right? So I don't shade it as like this is insane and Ryan Garcia doesn't deserve this for being a cheat. But it's just like you said, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, man. Like, you need some more money. Like, you guys are probably going to settle. Like, I don't know. Just get your get back, man. Get back on course.
Yeah.
Prove your greatness.
When you have money, right? I'm assuming the kid has enough money.
I would think so.
Enough to have those life-size paintings of himself around his house.
Class. Definition of class.
Then you assume that, you're not looking for money. So what's the goal of suing him?
I think more money. I think you're looking for more money.
More money? Because you're certainly not going to humiliate him in the court of law. You're the one that's humiliating yourself.
I think more money is always good.
I think saying, like, I'm going to sue you is, like, the ultimate, like...
It's not good.
Like, I don't even know what the term is for that, I know what we used to say back in the 90s, but I'm not going to say that.
Litigious, that's the word you were looking for.
You're extremely litigious, young man.
Awfully litigious.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think more money, but I also think it's about living in that moment of, like, I want everybody to see that this wasn't fair. And it's like, dude, we get it wasn't fair. Like, he was overweight. He was on PEDs. He whooped the shit out of you. They nullified the fight. It disappeared off your record. That's all we need. We don't need more. Like, also, I wonder what the timeline is of, like, you're just waiting to think about whether you're going to do this. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's time to get back in the ring, get back on track, you know, get dialed in, maybe make some changes to the corner, and then look for that ultimate payday, which is the rematch with him.
Wow. If that rematch does happen, it's going to be the biggest news in boxing for the whole, decade. It's going to be ridiculous. So maybe this is just some hype to keep them in the news. Maybe this is just more of the bullshit, because here we are talking about it.
Yeah.
Here we are caring about it. And then neither one of them are actually fighting anybody, but we're still talking about them.
Yeah, and I mean, Garcia's suspended until he's still got a while to go, right? He got a year suspension.
Yeah, years go fast, man. Some certain kind of ways. What did they fight back on 420?
Yeah.
So it's been a while already, man. It's coming around to the end of the year.
But maybe you're right. This lawsuit is just the way to kind of
keep it percolating, man.
Yeah.
Keep it in the news. Oh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? And then, he's a punk. He sued him, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't wait to see him whoop his ass. So it could all be manipulation. And these things take a long time. They might have been cooking this thing up for quite a while, and now it finally became official, so it finally became news. But this might have been in the works with the lawyers and stuff since the day after the fight. But hey, talk about Sandy Ryan's pre-fight shenanigans and how much trouble she had adjusting. Imagine dealing with a guy like fucking Ryan Garcia on a media tour for weeks before, and he's fucking coked out of whatever
terrorism.
He's on.
Yeah,
just fucking showing up shirtless to the Eiffel Tower and shoving you and being weird, and just like, man, that'll rattle.
Did you say the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah, that's where they were at. Remember
the Eiffel Tower?
Oh no, not
Empire State Building.
Empire. Hey.
The other one.
Oh,
the other tower.
The other tower with the view at the top.
Yeah, see, Coach, this is all evidence that you had that red paint on your hand. You just saw the Eiffel Tower. It was,
hey, dude. It's just evidence that I don't travel enough.
Yeah. Did you see the promo video for Bivol Beterbiev?
I still haven't watched it.
It's basically,
I was thinking we should do a live reaction.
Well, it's basically like an episode of Game of Thrones. But I was thinking that if they do the video for Ryan Garcia Haney rematch, they won't need to do any. They'll just use found footage and just clip it together.
Some shit from a fair.
Yeah,
some shit in the courthouse.
In the courtroom.
It's like full on Law and Order episode, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
I love it. Well, let's look forward to a couple fights coming up this weekend.
Yeah, Friday. Janabek.
Return of Janabek, finally. Couldn't make weight for the last fight, right?
Yeah, he was. Well, I think he made weight, but he was dehydrated.
So
okay. That's the problem. And that's why it's so unsafe to be cutting too much weight, because if you cannot rehydrate, then there's no fluid in your brain, and then you're going to take these life-threatening punches.
Mm-hmm.
If you got to have the water in your body for the sake of your safety. So somebody made the right move that night, and while he might have made weight, he wasn't rehydrating properly, and he's got to call off the fight. Got to call off the fight. So, and here they are, a couple months later, and it sounds like the fight's on, but we'll see. He hasn't hit the scale yet.
Yeah.
160 might be a little too small for this guy.
Yeah. Well, let's hope he makes it this time. It's a good fight. Janabek fighting Andrei Mikhailovich. I really worked on that one too.
It's
you
nice.
know, I really practiced.
It's got
that.
a ring to it.
Yeah, I turned it into a Hebrew with a little.
I can't help it.
Yeah, tough name for a Kiwi boxer, but undefeated fighter. 21 fights, 21 victories, 13 knockouts. Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting fight.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Mikhailovich, but we'll be watching. And I expect Janabek, if he comes in on weight and gets in the ring healthy, to be dominant. He's got such a sharp punch.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best punchers in pretty much a dead division at 160 pounds. Maybe he does need to move up and make a name for himself at 68, where there's a little bit more going on. But I'm looking forward to that one. It's always good on Friday nights to have fights. And but some kind of weird card. There's nobody really else on that card. It's just in some Australian field.
Like. Well, there probably is if you can find the local source, I would think. I think just ESPN, they've been doing that thing where they think there's no real boxing fans anymore, so they just curtail the card into 2 fights, super fast, back-to-back, like network television. Like, okay, sure. So that's what they're doing on that one. And then later in the weekend, Saturday morning for us, you've got a British card with the return of Nick Ball in his first title defense. Took the title off Ray Ford.
That's right. He took it off Ray Ford pretty handily and got Ford right out of the division. But hey, when a belt is like playing round robin like this, it feels like it can get a bit of a curse on it. Win the belt, lose it in your first defense. So it's his chance to break the curse here. He won the belt, and he's got to defend it in his first defense, and he's got to hang on tight to it. He's a wrecking ball, and he's going to do what he does. And I'm sure his opponent's preparing to deal with that, but it's easier said than done. I think he's going to come through. We'll see what he does. I'd like to see him get it done.
Yeah. I definitely see it. Ronnie Rios kind of in there, selected well to be your first defense. Seasoned veteran, 34 fights, but 4 losses, 3 by stoppage. One as recently as about a year and a half ago. I think they have a common opponent.
Yeah, the common opponent and the guy that he drew with, that Nick Ball drew with there in Ray Vargas. Mm-hmm. And Vargas beat Rios. So
right, by unanimous decision.
Vargas is kind of a freak of the division, though. He's so tall and lanky and built strange. And so you can't really say for sure if that would really be a great test to see, because Ball is a unique short dude. So they matched up in a kind of weird, ugly way. But I think if Ball's got the right opponent in front of him, he takes care of business, because he just rips his punches. Remember how he's ripping those uppercuts through, like all the way through the fight? I
just love Ball's style. He fights. He is small. He fights small. He leans into his strengths, and he just whip shots, and he fights in that way where you think, all right, I just need to survive 3 rounds, and then this guy is going to be gassed, and then he just doesn't gas. He just pushes it for 12 rounds like that the whole time. And I find it kind of amazing anytime someone just survives that long. He looks like a little blender in there,
Yeah. Violent punches, really whirls his shoulders in a kind of an old school fashion, kind of a throwback fighter in his way. So if this Rios isn't, if he's going to try to trade with him, we're going to see a real scrap, a real ugly scrap. Maybe some headbutting and shouldering and forearms slicing across. Yeah, but I'm just looking for that Ball uppercut, man. I can't wait to see if this guy's going to try to use a Mexican style and kind of hunch over his front foot. This uppercut's going to blast him out of there.
Yeah, and he's almost 6 inches taller than Ball.
Isn't everybody?
Yeah, true.
True,
fair.
His
I'm
kids
6
are
inches
probably
taller.
6 inches taller than him already.
Yeah. Well, that'll be an interesting fight. Looking forward to that one. Anything else we got to talk about here?
Well, we got those fights coming up. We've got Junto Nakatani fighting on Sunday or Monday in Japan. That's kind of sneaking under the radar, because Nakatani, if we really like to watch him fight, when he's not on an Inoue card, it kind of falls to the wayside. But he's fighting there's a lot of action in Japan this coming weekend. They got a card on Sunday and a card on Monday. The brother of Inoue, the other Inoue is fighting. And then Junto's fighting as well, I think, on different card. But
when do you think he's fighting?
I thought it was Monday. Nakatani. Where I get my news from Boxing Scene.
He's fighting on the October 14th.
Yeah, isn't that the next?
So it's coming up.
I'm a week off.
Yeah, we got way bigger fights to talk about in the interim. We got next week's show, which is the show I've been looking forward to all year, which is Beterbiev Bivol Breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Triple B.
I'm leaning Bivol this week.
Come on, man.
So somebody at the gym today asked me who I was picking, and I said it depends on who shows up. Mm-hmm. And I said this out loud then, and I'll say it out loud again. If Bivol can be Bivol for every second of every round, he can win the fight.
Yeah.
But if he has one flaw in his armor, one misstep, one wrong move, then Beterbiev can pounce on him.
So basically, if Bivol is a human being, he'll lose.
If he makes one error.
So if he's a human being.
He will
He's
lose
not Shakur Stevenson,
momentum.
Man.
This is a momentum fight. If Bivol can keep bouncing around the ring and just doing what he does and eliminating Beterbiev's momentum, then he'll win. But if Beterbiev gets his momentum going and doing what he does, then he'll win. So it's going to really be a battle of who can develop the lead of the dance, right? Who's going to drive the boat? And if Bivol going to get backed up to the ropes, I don't think so. I've never seen him lay on the ropes ever once, I don't think. So, I think this is going to be a real battle of styles, of aggression versus evasion, of footwork that goes in and out versus footwork that goes up and down. But I just can't wait, and I'm going to keep flip-flopping right up to the minute that they say box.
Yeah, no doubt an incredible fight, and no doubt kind of the the style matchup is going to be on display, and we're going to break this down, in detail next week. Got to do some film study and run back some of their older fights. And the task for each boxer is there. Beterbiev, you need to cut the ring off and get your work in and be able to land it with power, right? I mean, he can kind of punch from all those different angles, but he's got to not, he's got to be able to catch him open, but also catch him with able to plant his feet and get his work off the way he needs it to. And then Bivol, it's the exact opposite, right? I mean, it'd be really interesting if Bivol said, I'm going to come out and, put my foot on the gas and surprise you. Because I think most people picture him.
Have you rewatched the Canelo fight recently or seen any clips from it?
Not recently. I ran it back a couple times.
Man, if you put it on with the volume up, he's punching.
I mean, he's a big dude.
He's
it's no
punching.
joke.
It's like he's affecting Canelo with those shots, even to the arms, and while he's trying to high guard. I'm like, these sound like he's hitting.
Yeah, but he's not an Anthony Yard. He's not a Joe Smith Jr.
No, Anthony Yard actually had quite a bit of success. I thought he did pretty damn good in there. He touched the old man up a little bit.
Yeah, till he got knocked out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just some point of this fight where I'm like, okay, well, one guy has 20 wins and 20 knockouts.
Okay,
kind of feels like you should think he's going to knock this one out too.
So let's say who would be the equivalent boxer for like a Tank Davis, who's kind of like a Archer Beterbiev of his division, where he is not a perfect knockout streak, but pretty close to it, and he's always expected to knock people out. He would have knocked out. He would have knocked that dude out if he wouldn't have busted his hand up. What's his name? Pitbull. So who could you put him in there with that would be able to do what needs to be done to win? Like
Shakur. That's the only person.
You think Shakur could be the Bivol in this stance?
Yeah, I mean, I think Loma clearly has the skill set.
Younger Loma.
Sure, okay, young, but he's also maybe too small.
Sure. Okay.
And that's a problem. I think Shakur matches him in size, and I think actually, I mean, you bring up a great point. That's probably the most analogous fight to this one, right? It's because Tank's got obviously heavy hands, big knockout puncher, maybe more skilled than Beterbiev, or at least he kind of seems like he is. But really, you got a heavy-handed puncher versus a dude that needs to be defensively perfect the whole time.
Yeah, and that's the tightrope, man. That's why we love to watch these fights. It's like, can he be that perfect all night? And what kind of fight will that give us? What are we going to see? Or is it going to be tense and quiet, or is it going to be roaring thunder?
Yeah.
I think this one is going to be really interesting because Beterbiev doesn't wait for openings. He creates them with clubbing punches, with huge explosions.
Mm-hmm.
He got Joe Smith Jr. out of there with like a wrist strike where he hit him on the side of the head with half his forearm, like almost like Deontay Wilder.
Well, he knocked him down, 3 times? I mean, he was
bludgeoned him.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, then over the other side, Dmitry Bivol is a little bit more of a technician where he doesn't seem to waste any energy. When he was in there in his 2 fights ago, he only did exactly what he needed to do to win the fight. He never really put himself into a spot where he might get counterpunched.
Well,
where Beterbiev's like, counterpunch me, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll take 3 to land 1.
Yeah, exactly. And the 1 is all it takes.
Who do you think is favored right now? DraftKings.
Wow, I'd say Bivol's favored slightly.
Bivol's favored more than slightly. Minus 125 favorite for Bivol, plus 105 just money line for Beterbiev. Even the stoppage,
making you fucking licking your chops on that.
Oh, I'm placing a bet right now today. I'm locking this in.
The other
way.
Yeah.
Even Beterbiev by stoppage is plus 160, which is probably the biggest plus money you've ever seen of any fight on Beterbiev by stoppage. And the Bivol decision, by comparison's only plus 130. And those are both their clear paths to victory, obviously. So, really interesting. I mean, you can see this fight's so good, we're not even supposed to be talking about it right now.
Next week's business.
We're already down the road. All right, we got to get out of here. We'll look for our picks on Friday. Again, if you made it this far in the episode, please leave us a nice review. DM us some questions. We'll get to them on the next show. And until then, I'm Dust.
I'm Coach.
And that's boxing.